Good evening to everybody. It's always great to be back in America and to be here among friends. Friends of Europe, friends of defense, friends of football. The World Cup is over, and tonight we have the next big event in America, European Union Defense Night. It's humbling to speak to you from the same stage as many world leaders. Konrad Adenauer, Henry Kissinger, George Bush Sr., and Margaret Thatcher, Václav Havel. When Bill Clinton spoke here, he spoke here for more than an hour. I will try my best to be a little bit shorter. It's great to be here at Georgetown University, one of the most famous and oldest universities in America, founded around the time America was born as a country, in 1789, the year George Washington was elected president. Vilnius University, in my hometown, where I studied and did research in physics, was founded a little bit earlier, around the time the first European settlers arrived in America, in 1579. Georgetown University started as a Jesuit university. Vilnius University also started out as a Jesuit academy. Maybe this is why I feel immediately at home here at Georgetown University. These historical surroundings inspire me to speak about the big historical changes we're living through, which will impact the future of American strategy, as it was discussed recently in a very interesting collection of essays by the Council of Foreign Relations, and which will impact the future of European strategy, which I want to discuss a little bit this evening. It's worth to remember that at the beginning of this century, just 26 years ago, the 5 biggest economies in the world were the United States, Japan, Germany, United Kingdom, and France. The United States, number 1. Today, there is only one European country in that list, Germany. In 50 years from now, by 2075, as a forecast by Goldman Sachs shows, the 5 biggest national economies will be China, India, the United States, Indonesia, Nigeria. No individual European countries at all. United States as a number 3. The global balance of power is shifting. China and India are returning to global economic leadership as they were before Columbus sailed to the New World. For the USA, it can be sensitive to go in the next 50 years from global economic leadership down to the third place. Of course, for us in Europe, this is not a new experience. 2 world wars, Soviet occupation, and the Cold War changed our place in the world. We lost our global economic leadership at that time. Our answer then was to join forces in the European Union, to put the destructive wars of the past behind us, based on shared values, to work for freedom and prosperity. And now, after 70 years of European unity, together in the European Union, we have a GDP of around $23 trillion. And together, we're still in the top 5. Together, we're the second economy in the world, second only after the United States. Unity has made us much stronger. Of course, at the end of the century, collectively, we, as European Union, shall be only number 4. But for us to drop from number 2 to number 4 can be less painful. Since our history and your history gives us a lot of evidence that unity makes us stronger, our answer today in this changing world must also be to join forces across the Atlantic with our historical partner, the United States, our most natural ally. 1 year after concluding our agreement on tariffs and trade, it is worth repeating. The United States of America is the first economy in the world. The The European Union is the second economy in the world. As combined economies, even at the end of the century, we shall be able to keep global economical leadership, perhaps. Together, we need to fear no adversary, but alone and divided, we are in danger. The biggest adversary, the biggest threat on the continent of Europe is now aggressive Russia. We can only deter Russian aggression together. Russia is spending 50% of its national budget on its war machine. Russia is outproducing Europe in many areas, and even the United States and NATO, and will be capable of launching 10 million drones per year. The NATO summit in Ankara made clear Russia is the biggest long-term threat for Europe and for NATO. To deter Russia, we need a stronger Europe for a stronger NATO. We need NATO 3.0. Americans are asking Europe to take primary responsibility for its own conventional defense, because the United States of America needs to shift to the Indo-Pacific. And this is what we are doing. We are taking responsibility. 8 European countries are already spending more than the United States on defense in percentage of GDP. The Baltics and Poland now are spending more than 5% of their GDP on core defense. The United States, with 3.2%, is in the 9th place. And if trends continue, by 2030, European countries in nominal terms, dollar by dollar, euro by euro, will be spending more or equal with the United States on defense. $1 trillion. Europe is catching up. A true defense big bang, making both Europe and NATO stronger. We are now concretely discussing with our American partners the way forward. An orderly discussion on changing responsibilities. What capabilities does America need to shift from Europe to other parts of the world? From where and when? Together, we are identifying gaps. And the European Union can then support member states to fill those gaps. We need to remember that we are living through a century of major tectonic geopolitical shifts in the world. Some of these are shifts in history that happen only once in 500 years, like China and India returning to global economic leadership. Other shifts once in 100 years, like the dual transformation from a transatlantic collective defense of Europe to much more of European collective defense of Europe. And at the same time, from expeditionary doctrine approved by NATO in 2012 back to the doctrine of territorial defense in Europe. These tectonic geopolitical shifts demand from us a holistic approach to our defense readiness, which has 3 equally important pillars. The first, material defense readiness: weapons, finances, industry, production, and procurement. Second, institutional defense readiness: how we are organizing ourselves in Europe, how we are creating an European pillar of NATO. And the third one, political defense readiness: how we are upholding our political unity despite all the hybrid attempts to destroy it. Today I will concentrate mainly on material defense readiness, but we shall not achieve full defense readiness without all other pillars. Our European material defense ramp-up depends on 3 things. First, on the European Union. Defense, as you know, in Europe is a primary responsibility of member states and NATO, but our European defense big bang is impossible without the European Union. The European Union offers European Union added value, allowing member states to operate on an European scale. So even the smallest member states can leverage the power of an entire continent of 450 million people. For example, our European Union Space for Defense program, which no member state can build alone, but gives all member states world-class satellite navigation, observation with intelligence data, and soon secure connectivity. We are now mobilizing this European Union added value in different areas of our defense. For example, since 2023, we ramped up ammunition production in Europe to 2 million rounds a year, only possible thanks to an European Union policy instrument called ASAP. Without that, we would still be producing only 200,000 rounds a year. Also, we relaxed the European Union budgetary rules so member states can spend more on defense. It would otherwise not be possible for member states to reach agreed NATO's 3.5 defense spending target. We are encouraging cooperation, joint production, and joint procurement with new European Union instruments and new money. We are pushing for the creation of one integrated European defense market because now we have 27 markets. And this is a big obstacle to ramp up production. At the same time, we have dramatically cut red tape for defense industry across the entire European Union. From 4 years waiting times, in some cases, for permits to build defense production facilities, down to 60 days. In other words, from 1,460 days to 60 days, 25 times faster. Now we are also radically destroying obstacles for military mobility across the continent. So troops and equipment, also American ones, can quickly go where they are needed. In short, we are mobilizing our European Union added value to create a strong European pillar of NATO 3.0 and to make NATO and the Transatlantic Alliance stronger. Second, our defense wrap-up depends on partnership between European defense industry and American industry. Until 2035, during the next 10 years, European Union member states will spend €7 trillion on defense if they will fulfill what they pledged to NATO in increasing their defense spending. And they can spend their national defense money when they like and where they like. This creates for United States defense companies a rapidly growing European defense market. On top of that, European Union defense investment programs, which also offer opportunities for American industry. 150 billion in SAVE loans and 60 billion Ukraine defense loan. Also, the next EU multi-annual budget, which we call MFF, from 2028 till 2035, will give around 130 billion euro for defense and space, which is 5 times more than we had till now. European Union defense funds, compared to member states' money for defense, are around 100 times smaller and are, as you say in America, small potatoes. Not trillions, but only billions. Nevertheless, good opportunities. Now almost 90 United States companies are taking part in different European defense programs. There is still a lot of space for America to invest into European defense industry. But while Europeans buy 40% of their defense equipment in the United States buys only 1% in Europe. For a true transatlantic defense industrial partnership, we need also American industry and American militaries to procure and to invest in Europe. True partnership in defense is much more than just licensing or co-production. It's also sharing IP rights, joint research and joint development of new products, joint innovations, and joint learning from Ukrainian defense industrial experience. What is damaging possibilities of American defense industry on the European continent? It is still ITAR. European member states are very cautious to buy defense products without guarantees they will be free to use them as they need. And some clever companies, European companies, are already advertising our products are ITAR free. That is a key selling point for your competitors. Finally, for our defense ramp-up, we need to learn a lot from Ukraine. Russia is continuing its war of aggression, but at a growing cost. Ukrainian drones are stopping the Russian advance, disrupting logistics behind the front lines. And deep inland, they are striking the oil supply that fuels Russia's war machine. For the first time since the fall of communism, long queues in Moscow, queues before petrol stations. Occupied Crimea is collapsing. But the more Ukraine is prevailing, the more desperate Putin gets, and deadly. Every day there are drone attacks and ballistic missile attacks on Kiev. We now need to double down on our support for brave Ukraine. It's good that President Trump discussed the possibility of licensed production of anti-ballistic PAC-3 missiles in Ukraine. It was good also that at the NATO summit in Ankara, allies once again promised €140 billion in support for defense of Ukraine for this year and next year. The European Union and member states will continue our strongest support, as we have done till now, being the biggest supporter worldwide of Ukraine, with more than €180 billion for Ukrainian defense in the Russian invasion. Member states can now use €150 billion in safe loans to procure with Ukraine and for Ukraine. And now money from our €60 billion Ukraine support loan devoted for defense of Ukraine is starting to reach Ukraine. But now Ukraine not only receives support, but also gives support, including for us in Europe. Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently said, Ukraine has the best army in Europe. Ukraine has the best army not only because it has the best generals and bravest soldiers, but also because Ukraine has the best and most innovative industry and engineers. And why is the Ukrainian defense industry the most innovative? At the very beginning of the war, there was no military demand from traditional generals of Ukraine for drones and for innovative defense. Only after some time in Ukraine, innovative defense supply from a dynamic industry managed to transform military demand. Thanks to innovative supply, Ukraine changed its war doctrine. Thanks to transformation of its war doctrine, Ukraine now is prevailing. In Europe, we need to repeat the same road of transformation, on supply side and on demand side, and finally to transform our defense doctrines. It would be difficult to understand if we in Europe would not take it as our vital interest to integrate the best European military force and most innovative defense industry of Ukraine into our European defense architecture. Ukrainian industry produces good enough weapons for wartime conditions to perform on the battlefield. European defense industry produces still a lot of haute couture defense products. Products made for peacetime conditions. Products that are technologically very much advanced, but difficult to make, expensive, and hard to scale up. We must learn from Ukraine how to make good enough defense products. Good enough weapons that get the job done and are cheaper. Weapons that can have rapid scale-up of production, rapid innovation, and rapid repairs. We are learning how to transform our industry and war doctrine from Ukraine by putting Ukraine at the center of our defense initiatives. Our initiative on defense innovation, joint procurement, and production. And Ukraine is part of pan-European defense projects like Eastern Flank Watch, Air Defense Shield, and the European Sky Shield against ballistic missiles. Last week we signed the European Union-Ukraine Defense Industrial Pact, and the drone alliance between the European Union and Ukrainian industry was established to jointly produce drones and counter-drone systems, and plans to build joint anti-ballistic system based on Ukraine-produced missiles and European seekers and radars were announced. We are bringing together Europe's industrial power and Ukraine's innovation power. In a changing world, Europe and America need each other. In the short run, to face the Russian threat. In the longer run, to face the shifting balance of power on a global scene. We are natural allies. When we Europeans look at America, we see ourselves, descendants of Europeans who built America, including many Lithuanians. Men like Charles Denis Buczynski, who came to this country very young, spoke at first only Lithuanian and Russian, and served in the World War II in the United States Air Force. We know him better as Charles Bronson. I saw him on the screen when I was very young, in movies like The Magnificent Seven and other Western movies. And he showed us the freedom and opportunities of America. And in Europe and America, we look at the world in very similar ways. We are rooted in the same historical and cultural and religious and philosophical traditions. We have the same motto, you from many one, a pluribus unum, and we have unity in diversity. This summer, an American Hollywood blockbuster is breaking all records by telling one of Europe's oldest stories, the Odyssey. We share the same values of freedom and democracy. We share the historical experience of resisting and defeating totalitarianism of Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. Now it falls on our generation to be put to the test. Now it is our responsibility to meet the great challenge of our age, to deter Russian aggression and prevent war, and to bring our transatlantic alliance through this turbulent century into the next century. Thanks a lot.